Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Greg.
And I'm Danny.
We're going to talk today about something very important, and that is dealing with contractors. We have chosen to be our own general contractor.
So a general contractor is like the project manager for building the house. So they're in charge of the timeline, making sure that everyone comes in when they're supposed to, and that some things that can't be done later aren't scheduled before the things that need to be done first are finished.
So a general contractor often is good at something like framing or plumbing or something, but they're also in charge of the electricians and the plumbers and the framers, everybody involved building a house. We are that for our own house build. We wanted to talk today about how to deal with maybe some of the more difficult aspects of talking with contractors or making deals with contractors.
So when we started building our house, something that we really wanted was to do as much of it on our own as we could. One reason is that it would save money because our time would be our labor. But the other reason is that we knew that we could depend on ourselves. We understood how much we could trust ourselves, but we didn't understand how much we could trust another person necessarily. But we don't have experience in all the things that we need to do to make the house. Neither of us know a lot about being an electrician or being a plumber. You saw our plumbing video. We don't know what we're doing. So for the things that we don't know how to do, we wanted to get the same level of trust as we would working with ourselves. So the best piece of advice I could give for anyone hiring a contractor is to work with people you know.
That can sometimes backfire. We're about to finish an entire house, and the best contractors we've hired have been the friends that we have. Granted, we do pay well, and we are fair, and our payments are on time, and our friends tend to be very reliable people. So maybe we've just lucked out, but we've lucked out every single time, it seems, with the people that we know. People like Dan. What is that, girls?
It's an excavator.
Niels, Dennis. There's a lot of people in our videos whose names we haven't even presented, but have helped us build a home.
So you can have an airtight contract, but an untrustworthy person is going to find a way out of it. Your biggest security is working with someone that you trust.
The next best thing after somebody that you know and trust would be a reference from someone you know and trust. In my line of work, I've come across a lot of people that I know and trust, and if they're not good at a specific job, they probably know somebody who is. Lawrence is one of those examples who has basically saved our house build in a lot of ways. We hired him on as a concrete guy. That's all we wanted him to do at first, but he's a really good framer. He's a really good carpenter in general. He's very good at doing exactly the right thing all of the time. Can't say enough good things about Lawrence, but what I'm getting at is he was a reference from my own father.
Our second piece of advice is to get everything in writing.
By everything, we mean pretty much everything. Time frame, cost, scope of work, all the things that would come in a normal contract, get that in writing. Not just for protection, but so that we're all on the same page all of the time. One of the big things that having a contract that's written out can help with is if this has to go to court.
We've been really fortunate. We've never had to go to court about a misunderstanding, but there was a time that I really wish that we had something in writing because it looked like that may be the case, that we may be ending up going to court. We had a contractor and we had asked him to do a specific scope of work, and the scope of work that he did was much larger than what we had asked, and the price that he was charging was also higher than what we had discussed on the phone.
Much higher.
But we didn't have any of this in writing. I guess the positive side, neither did he. This would have been a much smaller problem if we had something on paper that we could say, this is what we agreed to, and it wasn't followed.
Just to be clear, we did clear things up with this contractor, but neither of us are happy with the result. That wouldn't have been the case if things were in writing. The third attribute that I would say we want to touch on as far as getting a contractor, find someone who's easy to contact.
One of our contractors was very easy to contact initially, and after we had paid down the deposit, he suddenly became very difficult to contact. It was a really big problem because we had already put money into it. We weren't able to get a hold of him to schedule the jobs, and we were pushing out other contractors in other parts of our house build because he hadn't finished his section and it was all waiting on him.
As it turns out, he had a very good reason, but we didn't know it. If he'd have just talked to us, it would have been fine. It's also good advice if you are a contractor. Be easy to get a hold of, or don't do the job for that person.
So one of the things that sets Greg apart as a business owner for a small trades business in our community is just picking up the phone.
It's odd. It's odd how many people mention that they're hiring me, first of all, just because I'm the only person who answered. Then they see the quality of my work and they'll hire me again, but initially you get work just if you answer the phone.
So I would very specifically look for this when you're looking in the reviews. If you don't have anyone to give you a referral, no one you know knows anyone in this field, and you're just going through Google, I would specifically look for reviews that say, I tried to get a hold of this person, they wouldn't call me back. Our fourth piece of advice is understand your contractor's priorities. So understand where you fall all in their schedule. More likely than not, you're probably a smaller job, especially if you're like us, you're a single family home and it's just going to take them a couple of days. And it's really important to you, but they may have a lot of other bigger jobs that you're getting pushed up against. And just because they said that they do your job, they're probably going to wait till they get a chance between these other larger jobs.
And oftentimes they're so busy that that's the only time they can dedicate to you is between their larger jobs. If you get in writing how high of a priority you are to them, the date that they can start, and when they propose they will be finished, that will help a lot with them prioritizing you and you feeling like a priority. Now, having said that, there are some companies who are just the best at what they do. They have way too much work to handle for even their own big company. However, there's a second best in the area. Oftentimes they're a big company too and they have a lot of work, but maybe they would get to your job a lot faster and do just as good of a work. So maybe the second best company in the area is the way to go.
Another option you might look into, but it's definitely more risky, is looking at a new company. So if a new company is just starting up, they may not have a list of clients yet. You might be the first person on their docket, but the risky part is that they're unproven. They're not tested, and you're gonna be the first one to find that out.
We took that chance with our plumber. These two brothers who just started their company. I met his girlfriend in Walmart actually, and she was like, oh, my boyfriend's starting his own plumbing company. And I thought, why not? I don't know why we did that, because we already knew enough to not take chances, but this one paid off very well. They're great plumbers. They came out and did a good job in a very short amount of time. We'll be using them in the future. A new company is a new company, and it's on you to vet them the way that you see fit, I guess.
Our first 4 tips were how to mitigate risk, to try and keep yourself out of situations that you don't want to be in. But sometimes even if you do everything right, there's still gonna be misunderstandings. So how do you deal with that conflict?
I'm the one who deals with the contractors mostly. I would love to slough that off on my wife.
No.
Fortunately, I am quite disagreeable, but I'm also a nice guy. You can be both, and I can demand what I want from a contractor while also treating them with respect. The first thing is, if conflict does arise, be respectful and as polite as you can be. If you start from a position of anger, you burned a lot of bridges by the time you're angry. So I'd start at being polite and respectful, and if it has to get to anger, you can build to there. Just as important would be to only state the facts. I don't say you made me feel like this, or I'm so pissed off, or you're a useless. I try not to bring emotion into the arguments. I say, here's what we agreed on, here are the facts, and here's when you said you'd be done, or here's how much I said I would pay. Things that you can actually measure or reference to. Makes the discussion or argument a lot smoother if you're just dealing in facts. And if you implement those two things, be polite and only deal in facts, your interaction with these problematic contractors, problematic part will be minimized as much as possible. There have been a few of these contractors where I was at my end and I couldn't do it anymore without getting elevated. And that's where I actually found it very beneficial to hand them off to Danny, my wife. And I want to know what you do and how you mitigate the risks on your end.
Greg and I have like a pretty similar approach. You start by being respectful, by listening to their side, by making sure that you understand the full picture. Something that we do differently is I set reminders on my phone to follow up. So I follow up often. I keep a schedule of when I'm going to follow up if I haven't heard back. And the last thing I do is after I've been respectful, after I've stated my facts, I have a call to action. So I ask a question that's going to help them come up with a response for how they're going to solve this issue. So some examples of this are like, you agreed to this and you did this. How do you plan on making this right? Or where do we go from here? Or what's the plan going forward? And this gives them the opportunity to make it right. And it's up to them to solve the problem. It's not up to you anymore. So as you may have noticed, we're not done building our house yet. So we still have some contractors left to deal with. My question to you is, where do we go from here? What have we missed? What did we not add? What would help us in the future working with these contractors?
Thanks for listening in on our opinions on how to deal with contractors. In the meantime, good luck on your build, and we'll see you next time.
Like and subscribe.
It's your cue.
I know.
Oh,
Hold
sorry.
on.
Okay.
Hold on.
You're your own boss. When I'm not